Don't forget to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to stay updated with our latest stories, because what I am about to share with you today, isn't just a memory. It's a feeling that has stayed with me for years, returning with the same softness every time I think about it. It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon, the kind that makes you feel as if the world has slowed down just enough for you to hear your own heartbeat. And I was completely lost in that silence, drifting through my thoughts, when suddenly the doorbell rang, slicing through the stillness with a sharpness that made me freeze for a moment. It wasn't unusual for the doorbell to ring, but something about that sound on that day tugged at my chest in a way I couldn't explain, almost as if the air itself had shifted before I even knew who was standing on the other side. When I opened the door, there he was, standing exactly the way I remembered him, with that unsure little smile. And those soft eyes that always held too many unsaid things, too many unfinished thoughts. He looked around awkwardly, as if he wasn't sure whether he should be there or not. And for a second, it felt like time folded in on itself, bringing the past right to my doorstep. He asked if he could talk for just a moment, only 2 minutes. He said, like he knew that if he asked for anything more, it would be too much. And even though my heart gave a strange, uneasy flutter, I stepped aside and let him in. Because no matter how much time had passed, neither of us had ever really learned how to stay completely away from the other. He walked into the living room slowly, his eyes scanning everything, like he was trying to catch the shadows of old memories still lingering in the corners. The ones we had buried long ago, but that somehow refused to stay buried. I sat across from him, and between us stretched a moment so heavy and so fragile that it felt both long and short at the same time, like the air was holding its breath along with us. Then he finally spoke, and the thing he asked for was the last thing I expected, a small request. Something so simple, so gentle, so harmless that if anyone else had asked for it, I probably would have laughed. But coming from him, it didn't feel small at all. His words carried with them the weight of everything we had once been, everything we had tried to forget, everything we had walked away from, even when our hearts weren't really ready to let go. He wanted something from the past, one of those tiny rituals, one of those old comforts we used to share without thinking. Something that back then felt ordinary, but had meant more to us than we had ever said out loud. As he spoke, I watched his face closely, the tension in his jaw, the tiredness around his eyes, the quiet hopefulness in his expression, and it struck me how little he had actually changed. He was still the same man who carried too many emotions at once, worry and softness, restlessness and sincerity, doubt and longing. Somehow all of them lived behind his eyes together, tangled and unfiltered. His request wasn't really about what he was asking, it was about everything he wasn't saying. I felt a knot form in my chest as memories rose up, unbidden, reminding me of who we had been, who we no longer were, and who we could have been if life had unfolded even slightly differently. I knew I shouldn't say yes. I knew this was the kind of moment that could pull us backward, drag us into the same circle we had both worked so hard to step out of. But there was something in his voice, a quiet trembling, a softness, a plea wrapped in humility that made it impossible for me to refuse. Maybe some people never stop affecting you, no matter how far you go or how much time you put between yourself and them. Maybe some threads don't break, they just stretch thin and wait. When I finally nodded, just a small nod, barely more than a breath, his shoulders eased in a way that told me he had been holding far more inside than I realized. The relief on his face was subtle but unmistakable, and for a moment I saw the version of him I used to know, the one who didn't hide behind walls or careful distances. The room felt different after that, lighter somehow, as if the simple act of agreeing had unlocked something old and heavy inside both of us. When he got up to leave a little while later, he didn't say much, and neither did I. There was no dramatic goodbye, no emotional exchange, no long stare. Just a quiet understanding suspended between us. Something gentle, something unfinished, something that didn't need words to exist. When the door closed behind him, the house fell silent again. But it was a different kind of silence, softer, warmer, no longer pressing down on me. It felt like some forgotten weight had lifted, like his small request had washed a layer of dust off memories I thought I had outgrown. I sat there for a long time after he left, thinking about how strange it is that certain people become woven into you in a way that time cannot unravel, no matter how much you think you've moved on. Some moments don't belong to the past or the present, they live somewhere in between. Returning only when they're meant to, asking only for the smallest acknowledgement to feel complete again. And maybe that's all his visit was, a single drop of rain falling on dry earth. Gentle and unexpected, softening everything it touched.